And actually, what I'm going to do today is just going to concentrate on making a difference to researchers as far as my advocacy experiences are concerned. And then I end up with my key principles. Maybe that one may be a little. I work in the university. So first, my issue is with the university management. Most times funding, collection, development, it's a problem because there's very little money, and because of that, we normally say that the cake, you have to make sure that you get your own part of the big cake. So you need to go to the vice chancellors, and that's what I do, so that they will support both print and electronic. But in recent times, especially for our electronic resources subscription. And this we know based on the information we get from the researchers that they are effective support for learning, teaching, and then research. And also with the vice chancellors, we also let them know that they need to support training workshops because way back in 1998, when we started working with INAS, many people, is it librarians, is it the researchers and the students, they were not very familiar with the online resources. So as I speak, there are still some loopholes we need to tie. So we need to convince the vice chancellors to support training workshops. And normally what we do is that most of our training workshops, if you want the researchers and the rest to come, you just put, we call it item 13. I don't know what you call it. That is some refreshments. That's a kind of enticement, and then the vice chancellor will have to foot that bill anyway. Then we also have the uninterrupted and fast access to the internet, because if you have good e-resources and you do not have fast and then uninterrupted supply of electricity and then the bandwidth, then it goes like the publishers are enjoying because you don't use much of the resources you pay for. Am I right? Then in recent times too, we need to let the vice chancellors know that open access is good. There are a lot of benefits to reap. And some of the vice chancellors, it's a bit difficult because some of them, they came in those days when these things, they were really phased on print. So most of the online things, you need to talk and explain that open access doesn't mean that there is no peer review. And that is what I do most of the times at the slightest opportunity. And then information literacy teaching in the curriculum. That's also an uphill task. Because we found out that when our products, the students go into industry has to retrain them because they don't know how to look for information, how to know good information and use it. So that's what I've really done, and I think my university, for instance, we already have it on the curriculum, we're already teaching, and for other universities in the country, it's happening. In all this, I always let the vice chancellors know, and even mine, that our profile will be elevated, and this is because we have increased output of our research and the uptake of research. We are part of DRUSA, so I know. Then also, when I get to researchers, faculty, and graduate students, because we see that they are the future researchers and faculty. So most times, we talk to them along our researchers, and sometimes we go to them specifically. We also let them know that scholarly information, it enriches our research. Because if you do not have access to what somebody has done, how do you know what to build upon? And most of them take this seriously. And also I tell them to take part in training workshops, because you need to acquire skills in searching. Most times when you have these databases and you cannot really search effectively, it's not used properly. So we make sure that we have this training for them. And also to publish in local journals. Some researchers and faculty think that it's only when you publish in high impact journals, the foreign journals, that you are known. But then, sometimes most of them do not have their papers accepted in the so-called high impact journals. So we also tell them, as much as you need to publish in foreign journals, you also have to let the local journals live. So that at the end of the day, you become international. And these days, most of the local journals are going open access. So it's the same way people get to know. And that's bearing a lot of fruit publishing in open access journals. And we also let them know that they need to give us their profiles, which is also bearing a lot of fruit. That is, they tell us what their research areas are, and what we do is that we have somebody specifically whose responsibility it is to search the databases and sometimes the print journals. And then the print journals we scan and we attach to their email addresses. And that is what is bringing a lot of them back to the library. I remember a professor who got promoted. He was a senior lecturer. And at the end of, I think 2 years ago, Christmas, he brought a hamper to my office. I said, what is it for? He said, you don't know what you did. The articles you were bringing to me on malaria made me to publish a lot of articles, and I'm now a professor. I said, go give the hamper to the e-resources librarian, because I didn't do that. So in the end, I took it to that department and they shared it. But I also let them know that good communication will enhance uptake. If you do not do good communication, you may do very good research. People don't understand you. You show all those signs, plus and minus, those scientific things, and you don't explain. Nobody takes it. So we always let them know that you have to communicate effectively, and we take them through workshops in that. Then with my own colleagues in the library, I always tell them to build strong relationships with the faculty and researchers. And these strong relationships can come even out of office, attending where they meet, where they take their bottle of beer. You know, in my part of the world, most times very serious decisions are taken in those places. You will just go do whatever you say, and next morning you say, can I come and see you in the office? Say, why not? Then the next day you go there and say, last night you remember when we were sharing this, that. You say, yeah. And the serious documents are signed the next day. So that's also another way we go through. And I also let them know that they need to provide easy and fast access to quality and current information for teaching and research. The way a lot of people are getting in through Google, not Google Scholar, the Google, the Yahoos, they think the libraries are no longer relevant. So I tell them that make yourself relevant by ensuring that you give them quality and current information. And that is what most of my colleagues are now doing, and also marketing the library's resources effectively. There are various ways you have to use. Is it giving them brochures? Sometimes printing. It comes at a cost. But you need to let the public or your stakeholders know that this is what the library has. This is what the library can do for you. And effective communication. And most times we use that with websites. We send emails. And when new staff are employed, we also do orientation for them. And the informal word of mouth, like I said. You just pass the word. It's easier for us. You know, in Africa, we are an oral culture. And the word of mouth works very well. Sometimes you send some email and nobody will read, but you meet blah, 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 blah. I sent you email. Oh, are you sure? But then the word of mouth has taken the message, so we use a lot of that. Then also we measure our value regularly through questionnaires, through statistics, and that helps people to know. And we also use that to ask for more funding when we go to the academic board meetings and the rest, because it's always an uphill task. Everybody is struggling for limited funding. And it's important to identify the champions, because faculty want to relate to themselves, researchers want to relate to themselves. So it's important that you catch some of them and then fill them with the information you know, and then they will go back and then spread it among their colleagues. And another thing is that at every meeting, at every committee level on campus, sometimes they don't even, maybe we are at a meeting, they may say something slightly which will involve the library and resources. Then I will jump in and talk, and then they will say, okay, we've heard. But it's good. The more you talk, the more they listen. You have to say 10 and they will take 2. If you say 2, they will take 0. So with even library organizations in my country, we talk about the Library Association and then the consortium. We emphasize on skilling the librarians so that they will go and offer the effective service that we are talking about. Then when you come to the consortium, I said, let us own it, because it's very important. When you own something, it's yours, and when you use it effectively, it comes out. So we keep emphasizing that, and I'm short of blowing our own trumpet. The consortium in Ghana is one of the strongest in Africa. Internationally, what I really, when I go to some of those meetings relating to library work, I insist that we should look at our policies. There are several policies that we need to either bring on board or improve upon. On the IFLA level, that is the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, those of you who are very familiar see the number of policies which are now popping out. Is it open access? Is it document delivery? There are several of them. And these are the things we kept talking about, especially years ago when I used to be on the board. And also to support training workshops for librarians to enhance their skills in accessing relevant scholarly information. These things I do with some of our partners. INAS is part of it because they know the emails I sent to make sure that we skill these librarians and then researchers. And also to channel the funds into providing facilities for researchers in developing countries. You know, it's important to support the publication of local articles. What I mean is that we have local journals and we need to scale the editors so that they will be able to publish online and also get people to also know how to use the different software available. And what we've been doing in recent times is to get them to use the OJS. You know, OJS is free. It doesn't cost any money to us, so not the proprietary ones. Now with editors and publishers of local journals, I work closely with them most times. And we let them know that it's important to publish quality national research results. Is it the fact that you publish that journal so everything goes in? No. When you do that, your journal is not respected. If you do not publish regularly on time, you lose credibility. And I know Susan will chuck you out of African journals online if you are not regular. And then you need to publish online because it's quick, easy, and then current. You don't have to wait. Some of them cannot really support printing quarterly. So you may see that one journal, the print one comes out, volume 2, numbers 1, 2, 3 in one. Just because. So why don't you go online and save that kind of situation? And quality. And quality comes with strict peer review. I always tell some of the publishers and then the journal editors, please, let's not play with our editing. If it's your brother, your uncle's daughter, your cousin's son, and the paper is bad, let it go out. Don't put it in there. Because at the end of the day, it's the journal that suffers. And also encouraging them to publish open access. That's an uphill task, but we are working on it for them to publish on open access for wide dissemination. Because we did the research and we found out that some of these journals, the money they get as subscription, it's nothing to write home about. And with that, articles which come published in these journals, people don't read them because they do not subscribe. Why don't you put them on open access so that a lot of people will have these articles read? And that is what I always tell them. And some of them are buying. I think my association, Ghana Library Association, after we preached for a while, they are now on open access. Then also maintaining close links with librarians and researchers, that is the local journal publishers and editors. It's important because we have to work together. And most of them, when you invite them for workshops, they do not come. And that is what I always send them emails. Those I have their telephone numbers. I said, please come. Oh, what is in it? I said, there's a lot in it for you. Just come. And then when you come, I find a way of telling you beautiful stories. And then I end up giving you a pen drive or a pen. That's something in it, isn't it? So, and they always laugh it off. But at the end of the day, at the end of the workshop, they are excited that, oh, I didn't know. It's good that you insisted that I should come. Then I've been able to get additional information. Then with publishers, are there many of them here? We always, talk to those that either by email, some of them I meet face to face, that it's important to give us some training, especially on the use of your resources. You may sell the resources to us, subscribe, whatever, but if people cannot use the resource effectively, it's not well used. So sometimes we speak to them at international conferences, and some of them come to demonstrate. We've been having that for the past 2-3 years. Mike came recently to Ghana, and we are waiting for Alan and the rest. Those I know by name. Okay, and then Anne for Project Muse. and they feel. So please do come, and then it will help us to use your resources more. And we also advocate for relevant resources to be given to us at affordable prices. Why I'm saying this is that sometimes they will tell you we have a package, but out of that package, only about 10 journals are the ones we need. Then we have 90, which we do not need, but they say we cannot do anything about it. That doesn't help. So we keep sharing. Sometimes some of the publishers listen. After I talk, and the emails, in a day we'll be sending emails front and back. And at the end of the day, they say, okay, you win. Let us come, So we have when we are asking that the other publishers do the same thing. And it's always good. I do that. I present the correct financial situation of the consortium, that we don't have money. So you need to give us discounts. Either you give us the discounts or we cannot subscribe. I mean, that's a fact. You should not pretend. They'll tell you, and then you lead the publisher on, and at the end you say, I don't have money. That's not fair. So right from the word go, I tell you that we don't have money. What can you do for us? Then when he said, we have that, I said, please, how much is it going to cost? Let's start. Let's discuss the monetary aspect first. Once he tells me it's going to be 200,000, I say, thank you, we can't afford it. So that I don't waste your time, you don't waste my time. But in most times we agree. Once it's okay, what can you offer, and that kind of, and we've really been doing well in that aspect. Another thing which is also coming into our country, and I'm sure some other consortium that I've heard, is publishers now wanting to deal directly with institutions. Some of them we've communicated by email and told them that is not good. They ask us, okay, you cannot deal with individual institutions. We have a consortium. And it's better because at the end of the day, you deal with institution A and you give the institution a certain price. It's one institution. You earn less because if you deal with the country as a consortium, you earn more money. Because all of us will now know the consortium price and then pay. But you deal with one institution, you get that money, and then you go. And I have also what I tell them, that he that is down needs fear no fall. That you're already down. So you are not afraid of falling. So if you are not prepared to come my own way and let us compromise, you better go away with it. I'm already down. I don't have it, so I'm not feeling it. It's when I have had a taste of it that I will feel it. So you can go. You don't gain money, I don't get it, but I'm not bothered. And at the end of the day, it works out fine for us. And we also need provision of marketing materials to librarians, which I keep telling, and I'm happy that most of the publishers, they've listened to that and they mail some of the materials to us. And also making sure that there is this smooth link between the consortium and then the publisher, so that you give us the proper packages. And I must say that no email stays in my box for 24 hours, unless I'm traveling. But if I'm home, the email comes, I send it, because I reply. Otherwise, I suffer. It's not only you. When it builds up, when am I going to clear it? So I make sure that we send, and then we have that kind of a good rapport. Now, these are my key principles. When I am advocating, I have the passion for it, and I do not. The passion is there. And until I keep saying that when I hit the wall, I push the wall. When I push and it doesn't open, I know nobody else can push. That is my principle. That when I hit the wall, I'll be pushing. And then if I get it open, I get in. If I cannot, nobody can. And I've made a lot of inroad with that. And I also understand the perspectives and priorities of the stakeholder. It's important. If you don't understand, how can you advocate effectively? I know this is what he or she wants. This is what this organization wants. These are their priorities. So when I'm advocating, I go around that, make sure I fit in so that I don't lose out. And it's important to be armed with facts and figures. You just go advocating and they ask you, you start saying, okay, tomorrow I'll come back. You're already a loser. So when you are going, you make sure you are armed with it. If you can't remember anything here, just take this stick-it pad in your hand, and just when you are a few minutes to starting, you just go through the points and you are armed with it. That's very important. And also to state the truth. You don't need to color it, and you have to be consistent, and don't make promises you cannot keep. You have to make promises you can keep. Say, yes, I'll see you tomorrow. What time? 6 o'clock? Fine. And maybe you know that at 6 o'clock you'll be somewhere else. Why make that promise? Your credibility is shaking there. So you only make promise you can keep and be honest with what you say. Most times somebody will ask a question, a stakeholder, somebody you're advocating will ask a question and you think it's very small and you want to just, throw it off. It's important to that person. You don't ignore it. You need to address it. And most times what I do is when I have talked, I have written, I make sure I have, this is the last slide. I make sure I have somebody there whom I'm keeping, who I trust. And what I do is that most times I link up with that person by email. What have you done? This thing we discussed, what are you doing with the researchers? What are you doing with the faculty? And that's what I do. So the champions, when you're advocating, you need a champion. If you do not have a champion, you have to come back and redo what you have done. So I make sure I have a lot of champions. And by that, I've developed a kind of friendship with faculty and researchers in various subject areas in my university. And it's also important to offer information support at critical times, even when not asked. For instance, I know that maybe my vice chancellor is going to the ACU meeting, and I have seen the conference theme, and it is something I know. I go in there, I do some research, give him very good points related to the topic, and you give it to him. He hasn't asked you for it, but it's useful. He will never forget it. So when next time you go asking something, he knows you gave him something. Because you know he's going to make a presentation. You just do that information and give him. And the same thing is when you have a stakeholder, and you know the stakeholder has got some weak areas in information, you also try and find out solutions. You've not been asked. Do it, and you don't know. It works wonders. But it's important that whatever you are doing with advocacy, you have a determined and positive mind to succeed. And my key principles is that you have to be brief, accurate, very clear in your presentation. You don't have to leave any doubts. And also you have to give them timely information, be factual, persistence. Don't think the person frowned at you. Oh, I talked to this publisher and he squeezed his face. And so what? His face is squeezed. I'll go back. Once you don't beat me, I'll come back to you. And you need to be polite. It's very, very important. Polite, show gratitude, and in your communication, you need to be simple. It's not there that you are going to open the Oxford English Dictionary and quote all the big words where you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sad, oh, I'm melancholic. He doesn't want to hear that. You have to be simple in your communication. So these are the key principles. I think that's all I'm done. Key principles are you. Thank you.